CO2, the heat remains inside the material which is under process, correct?
Yes, sir.
So there
Yes,
is
sir.
chance of reignition. There is chance of reignition when you are going to fight the fire with CO2. So this you must always keep in mind of using a particular firefighting medium that reignition can occur. So you have to be extremely careful to make sure that the ventilation is started at the appropriate time after the cooling has occurred completely. Normally, you would employ boundary cooling, but in electrical equipment, it may depending on the location, it will be different. Why? Because if it's a cable under fire, you can use the other side of the bulkhead to do the cooling. But if it is a motor, of course, there is no question of cooling because it has to cool in the air itself. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What is the best firefighting method? The best firefighting method is prevention of fire itself. What is it called?
Prevention of
Prevention of
fire.
fire.
Prevention of
So how
fire.
do you prevent the fire?
Taking proper precautions.
Precaution means what? That's the general answer. That is by maintaining hygiene and husbandry. What is hygiene and husbandry?
So to
Clean
clean all
environment.
the
Absolutely, completely clean environment, making sure all your surroundings are absolutely clean. Because any dust, dirt, or loose paper or spare parts, all these things which are thrown and strewn around are a potential cause of starting
Fire.
a fire. So, therefore, you have to ensure that cleanliness is the first step towards avoiding a fire itself. So that is called as part of husbandry and hygiene. What other thing do you think are there important firefighting mediums apart from what I have mentioned? So one is starvation. So depending on the type of fire, you could employ the particular firefighting medium of using either CO2 or water or powder
Carrot, sir.
or
Carrot
spray
nozzle.
or foam. If you're going to use powder, why use powder? Tell me. So where there is a oil fire, you are going to use what?
powder, sir.
Either you can use powder or you can use foam. But powder is the more preferred method, especially in case of highly inflammable fluids like gasoline fires and all. Why? Because it's going to completely cover the burning liquid pool of oil and after it will completely smother it. What is the danger here? Also, the danger is chance of reignition after the fire is been extinguished. So therefore, if you're going to use foam, what will happen? It will provides both cooling and smothering action. It provides both cooling
Cooling and
and
smothering action.
smothering action because it spreads over the film of oil and then it also provides for cooling and then for it prevents contact with air as well as provides some amount of cooling. How many types of foams are there? How many types of foams are there? You definitely studied this earlier, no? So one is called as high expansion foam and other is called as
Low expansion
low
foam.
expansion foam. Depending on the amount of foam produced in a unit volume of liquid that is categorized as high expansion or low expansion. Okay, so more than 1 to 200 times is high expansion. Below that is all low expansion foams. Again, the foam can be produced by means of a mechanical mixture or by means of chemical reaction. So, what is the method of mechanical foams? You heard of a venturi?
Eventually,
Venturi, you know what is a venturi? Varun?
Sir, I know about Venturi meter, sir. It uh, it is used to know the flow of
It is
the
used
fluid.
to?
Know the is used as a flow meter for the fluid.
Okay. The concept is same. So basically, I am going to show you now what is a typical foam generating device for fighting the fire with using foam. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see the whiteboard?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So what is this I have drawn?
Venturi.
So this is a venturi. So this is the liquid which is being pushed in at high velocity here. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So liquid is coming in and what comes out? The liquid plus foam comes out. So where is the foam coming inside?
From below, sir.
From the,
So from below there will be a chamber from the
Throat, sir.
mixture will be coming.
so what is coming from here? So I got a container here. What is inside the container? There is a foam, ready-made foam compound here. So it comes out and it mixes with the water and produces.
Foam.
These are what mechanically generated. These are mechanically generated. Suppose if there is a chemical reaction, so basically what is foam? Soap, sodium bicarbonate. So if you got a mixture of ammonium chloride and sodium bicarbonate, it will produce a chemical foam. By chemical reaction of two fluids, it will form a chemical foam. So two types of foams are available. One is Y mechanical, other is chemical. So how do you produce a chemical foam? You got two containers, one inside another, inside a extinguisher bottle. So you're going to break one container, so the liquid are going to mix inside and form a foam. Most importantly, after the foam is produced and after the firefighting is over, what you must do? What I have shown just now? You have to flush through the entire system. Otherwise, what will happen? The foam will go and choke the pipeline. So after the firefighting is over, what you must do? You must flush through the entire pipeline. Similar concept is there if you got a portable firefighting medium. That means when you use a portable firefighting extinguisher, especially foam type or dry powder type, what you must do? You must completely discharge the extinguisher. If you don't discharge the extinguisher, what will happen?
It will choke.
It will form a choke inside the siphon tube inside the extinguisher and it will render it useless. Next time when you try to use it after refilling, it will not work. Have you understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Another important concept of fighting fire is what? burning of iron in steam. Burning of iron in steam. Have you heard of this phenomena?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
So what happens inside the exhaust funnel? You got a lot of soot particles which are deposited inside the chimney or the exhaust funnel. Are you agreeing to this fact? Nobody is answering.
Yes, sir.
So what happens? Those form hotspots. So the soot particles inside the exhaust trunking or the chimney form hotspots. And next time when you're going to do, what are you going to do? Soot blowing. The soot blowing you can do either by steam or air or whatever technique available. So the soot is going to break down the steam. Steam is what? Water vapor.
Yes, sir.
So that will break down into hydrogen and what?
Oxygen.
Oxygen. So the steam will break down into hydrogen and oxygen in presence of soot or hotspots or these which act as a catalyst to break it down. Once it is broken down, it can form an explosive mixture. So what is the ratio of hydrogen to oxygen which forms an explosive mixture? Four parts of hydrogen combined with one part of oxygen to produce what? To produce an explosive mixture. The hydrogen bomb concept is that only. So you have got hydrogen, you have got oxygen, and you also got rust particles. What is rust?
Oxidation of iron.
Ferric hydroxide. What is it called? Ferrous
Ferric hydroxide.
hydroxide. FeOH2, FeOH3, all these are rust particles. So they are going to readily burn with a chemical reaction in presence of steam. So this is phenomena is called a burning of iron in steam. What do you do to prevent it? So there is no method of preventing this fire, and God forbid if this thing happens. So you have to stop everything and allow it to burn by itself and allow it to settle down till the time you can't do much. Have you understood? So you should avoid buildup of excessive smoke inside the chimney. So by regularly soot blowing so that the excessive hot spots are not generated. So prevention is the best cure for firefighting method. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So another aspect of prevention is to prevent the items from reaching their self-ignition temperature or auto-ignition temperature. So what is the minimum auto-ignition temperature specified by the IMO? 262.5 degrees centigrade is the minimum auto-ignition temperature. So you should try to avoid allowing items to reach to that temperature by necessary preventive techniques. So which involves what? Suppose you have got an electrical switchboard. How do you make sure that the electrical switchboard is okay and should not be a source of any fire? Okay, what could be the source of a fire inside an electrical switchboard?
Short circuit.
Short circuits or loose terminals. So short circuit you can see any loose wire, but loose terminals, they are all tightened by nut bolts. Can you touch them and see?
No, sir.
You'll get electrocuted. So what is the method of inspection and making sure that all those electrical circuits are okay? Anybody?
by using tester.
By using
Tester.
what tester? What is a tester for?
To check the current flow and the nut bolts.
So that will it they tell you that it is developing heat because of a loose terminal?
No, sir. No, sir.
Because the underside of the surface of the nut bolt where it is tightened terminals, because of small marking which is not visible to the naked eye because of looseness, may become oxide. Oxide is a non-conductor which will develop more incipient heating resistance and heating faults, which may lead to a fire, ultimate meltdown of the entire switchboard. So regular checking and monitoring of the electrical switchboard, which is a important part of preventing the fire, is by using a thermal gun.
Thermal gun. Yes, sir.
So infrared gun you can use and you can check if any temperature is exceeded. Or you can have either the two types of guns, IR guns. One can give a point temperature, other can also give a heat map. So depending on the type of gun available in the ship, you can use that and try to assess the condition of your electrical switchboards to prevent any incipient development of faults. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Another important technique of fighting fire is what? To ensure that you are regularly practicing. Your drills are absolutely okay. Why? Because when you have fire occurs, first is prevention, second is husbandry and cleanliness, and third, in case of a fire, the preparedness of the fire in terms of fighting the fire by drill and then the emergency response subsequently for recovery action. So drill you're going to do every day or every week. You're going to practice fire drills. So that you must do sincerely because everything should be a robotic action. There is no method of what? Fighting a fire by thinking. In the sense, everything should be practiced and rehearsed so the actions are automatic because there is split second decision which you are going to make or break. Therefore, everything, if you're drilled correctly, if you know the drill, then you can fight the fire easily. Have you understood? So, drill is an important part of fighting fire. Have you understood what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
good. Next thing is the risk assessment. What is risk assessment?
Sir, to
That means the
discuss
firefighting. Yeah, tell me. Sorry, tell
Sir,
75.
analyzing the situation regarding the risk.
sir,
Okay,
to
that
discuss
was
all
one
the
aspect.
dangers or all the accidents can happen.
To identify the hazards.
Yes,
To identify the hazards, correct. So that means
yes,
all these things have been done beforehand and a specified firefighting technique has been recommended. But what I'm trying to address the root of the problem itself. That is, most of the time the risk assessment may not be done correctly. So what are the two important aspects of risk assessment? Since you have already done risk assessment, therefore I'm asking you. And you mentioned hazard, identification of the hazard. All these are important elements. So what are the two most important things which lead to risk assessment in quantifying the risk assessment elements? First is the severity of the hazard, and second is what? The probability of occurrence. Have you understood? So the
yes,
probability of the occurrence of the hazard multiplied by the severity will give you the quantified risk assessment analysis. And it can impinge on three aspects. What are the three aspects? safety to personnel, safety to environment, and safety to the ship or the material. So these are three aspects on which the entire risk assessment premise is based. Are you following what I'm saying or not following?
Yes, sir.
Following, sir.
Okay. So I have briefly given you an overview of the risk firefighting methods. Now I will want to show you one small video, after which we, if time permitting, we can go through the formal presentation. That is okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me whether you're able to see the screen and hear the audio also after I start the okay. Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Firefighting organizations
Are you able to hear the audio?
consist
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
the master of the ship bears the overall responsibility for the operation. Though duties vary from ship to ship, usually the chief officer will be in charge of operations in the accommodations and deck area, and the chief engineer is responsible for operations in and around the engine room. The crew is also divided into various teams, such as firefighting teams, engine room teams, technical teams, and first aid teams. A detailed description of the composition and allocation of personnel to various fire parties will follow in another chapter. The organization and jurisdiction of shore-based rescue services and the resources available to them will vary from country to country, and may involve civilian or military emergency agencies. The way in which the operation is handled will also depend on whether the ship is at sea or in port. Local firefighting authorities will normally engage fires that occur in port. Fires at sea, however, will require a great deal more organization, which can include assistance of firefighting tugs and the transportation of firefighting crews and equipment from several different stations to the area. Such operations are coordinated at multi-jurisdictional levels. When a coastal station receives an emergency signal, the message is relayed to national and international networks that will then contact the relevant emergency services. It may, however, take some time before they arrive. Usually, commercial vessels sailing nearby will be the first to arrive at the scene and provide assistance. The master has ultimate responsibility for any operations on board the vessel. By tactics, we mean planned courses of action or procedures that are intended to result in the best possible outcome. This involves the placement and coordination of crew members or teams in such a way that maximizes their ability to cope with the situation. These procedures include alerting or notifying, alarm instructions, saving lives, limiting the fire,
So this, I think you should take a screenshot of this which include the procedures for firefighting include alerting or notifying, alarm instructions, saving lives, emergency escape breathing device, limiting the fire, use of fire doors, use of smoke and fire dampers, and finally extinguishing the fire itself. Have you taken a screenshot of this?
Yes, sir. Taken.
Okay.
The use of smoke and it is important to alert or notify the bridge immediately. This can be done by using system or by using automatic or manual alarm systems. The management on board will then have more to organize the firefighting operation. Emergency plan. On board every vessel you will find an emergency plan, explaining the meaning of the various alarm signals and your specific duties in an emergency situation. Make sure you are familiar with the emergency plan on your vessel. Click the different buttons to hear the alarm signals. Direct contact with the fire is not the cause of most fatalities. The majority of deaths are caused by inhalation of smoke and toxic gases. As soon as someone is suspected to be missing, the master must be informed so that a search can be carried out. Keep in mind that this search involves risks to the rescue crew. Plus, it directly delays the extinguishing activity because crew members that should be firefighting must conduct a search. Therefore, any missing personnel must be found or accounted for as soon as possible. Crew members must report to their assigned posts immediately upon the sounding of an alarm. Otherwise, work will be delayed because a search has to be made for personnel that are not in any immediate danger. The Emergency Escape Breathing Device, EEBD, is a personal breathing mask that keeps the user with oxygen for a certain number of minutes, enough to enable him or her to escape to a safer environment. The IMO requires a minimum of 2 sets in the accommodation room, 2 in the engine room area, 2 spare sets, and 1 training set. This means a minimum of 7 sets per vessel. It is also of vital importance to limit the fire by cooling down bulkheads, closing the ventilation, vessel. It is also of vital importance to limit the fire by cooling down bulkheads.
Please make a screenshot of this.
Taken, sir.
Okay.
Closing the ventilation. Removing gas bottles from the area, shutting down electrical power, sealing off the area. Fire doors are designed to isolate various sections of the vessel from both fire and smoke propagation. They must operate via a remote closing mechanism, but also manually in case of power failure. Fire doors and dampers operation is a standard part of the ship's mandatory fire drill. smoke and fire dampers close the ventilation and airflow through parts of the vessel. Because the number, type, and location of fire doors and dampers will vary from ship to ship, crew members are expected to become familiarized with them. It is very important that at all times, no obstructions are in the way of their closing mechanism. The sooner that extinguishing operations are started, the greater are the chances of a successful result. When choosing an extinguishing method, the goal must be the total elimination of the blaze. One must also consider the amount of damage the extinguishing agent will cause to the surrounding area, while still keeping in mind that the first priority is to extinguish the fire before it causes any more damage. In some parts of the vessel, one can choose between fixed firefighting installations or using manual equipment, such as hoses or extinguishers. In some areas of the ship, manual firefighting will be the only alternative. Permanent firefighting systems, such as CO2, Inogen, Argonite, or foam, should be installed and used in areas where the danger of a fire starting is high and there is a great risk of fire spreading. Any manual firefighting involves a certain degree of risk to the extinguishing force. The decision as to which equipment to utilize in a specific situation must be well-based. Being in command requires good leadership skills. Important qualities in relation to being a good leader include professional skill, communication, trust, communication skills are an important factor in good human relations and earning the respect of your fellow crewmates. It is important to keep in mind not only what you say, but also how you say things. The tone of your voice and use of body actually mean. Good leaders are also good listeners, and this gives them an ability to connect. The environment will be a very difficult place to communicate in, yet good order can result in a serious accident. Misunderstandings can easily occur when crew members of different nationalities and native language communicate in a second language. So it is important that everyone clearly understands what the other is saying. A simple nod may seem to confirm that what you have said has been understood, but keep in mind this is not true for all cultures. If there is the slightest doubt whether an order has been understood, be sure to ask the person to explain what they are to do before they start work. The noise of machinery and the sea can also add difficulty to communicating. You should avoid long and potentially inaccurate phrases, especially during emergency situations. Remember, messages to the smoke divers must be short and precise. The master, or the person in charge, must be an experienced and skilled professional who is confident in their ability to assess situations as they arise, as well as being able to motivate and inspire others. Professional skills are obtained through experience, general competence, training.
I hope you understood this.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now we can start with our formal presentation on firefighting methods. So the important steps towards firefighting, that is the prelude is first mitigation, preparedness, response and recovery. So mitigation means what? Avoiding the fire itself, that is mitigation. Preparedness means that the drill towards firefighting is also a firefighting response.